I think the challenge that I love about MIT is that and I think this is, I learned this, in the earlier places that I've been in my coaching careers, you have to be really mindful. You have to have a really good reason why you do what you do, right? Because like our swimmers and divers want to know why, right? They want to know why we're doing a breath control set. They want to know why we're doing this kick set at this time on this day. They want to know those kinds of things. And I think it's really important that, like, if we only have 2 hours, right? And there is a concept that is MIT time where everything starts 5 minutes after the hour. But if we start at 5:05, right, that means we have an hour and 55 minutes. And then maybe we have to talk about the dual meet on the weekend, or maybe we have to talk about like some other sort of team administrative thing. So maybe that's 10 minutes. And then, when you have a big team, you have to get everybody to where they need to be, and you have to explain the set. And so, there's like a lot of thought that goes into almost every single minute of practice. And then also, like, on the human side of it, the thing that, like, it's like always in the back of my ear is like, okay, is this like fun, right? Like, it's not as if we're doing, relays and buddy kick every single day, but it's like,
Right.
Ultimately, like, how can we, like, what are we going to tell them in the lead up to the main set that's going to make it like we're going to try to draw out the best in them. So I think, like, the unique challenge about MIT is the time.
Swimmers! Take your marks.
Welcome to another episode of the Get Out Swim podcast. I'm your host, Seamus T. Quinn, and today I'm joined by head coach of men's and women's swimming and diving at MIT. This is Meg French. So, Meg, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. Well, this is fun. I was able to connect with Meg back over the summer and just really thought super highly of her, and really enjoyed our back and forth, our conversations about swimming and just life in general. And so I'm super stoked to just reconnect with Meg and kind of pick her brain a little bit about MIT season, kind of what they were able to accomplish, and her own coaching journey as well. I think it's really cool to just see how, these head coaches have gotten to the positions that they're in today, and kind of take a deep dive into their own experiences and just what they see kind of for their programs moving forward. So this is fun. And yeah, I'm excited to learn more about your journey.
Great.
So we're going to start just with the NCAAs. I think that's a good starting point because it is sort of, the last meet that you and the team had. And certainly there were a ton of highlights. So I'll just read off some of the highlights that I noted. Obviously there's so many, times and certain things to go across. But I noted that you guys had 2 individual national champions in Tobe Obochi, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, in the 50 freestyle. And then we had Kate Augustyn in the 100 backstroke and the 200 backstroke. And I'll also add that she set an NCAA record in the 100 backstroke, which is quite the accomplishment. And then for your relay, your women's relay and the 200 medley relay, you guys were able to become national champions, which, again, super exciting. And then the women's, team placed 5th overall for, a top 5 finish at NCAAs amongst, the powerhouses. There is really exciting as well. And then not to mention, backtracking even before that at your conference meet at the NEWMACs, you were able to obtain your 13th title, I think consecutive title for the women. And then 15th consecutive for the men. That's what I noted. So that's really exciting. So those were some of the highlights that I noted, and I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on NCAAs, even backtracking to conferences, and just sort of you and your coaching staff's takeaways.
Yeah. It was a good year. In a lot of ways, right? Not just by the way that we finished, but I think in who we were as a team. I think we spent a lot of time focusing on that right away. And for all the Division III coaches and swimmers and divers out there, they know about the change that the NCAA made this year to the playing and practice model with 114 days as opposed to 19 weeks. And I feel like that made a huge change. It really lays out to be the same amount of days you can use, but I think having a little bit more flexibility to our schedule and feeling like, early in the season, if, maybe we could take a Saturday off if it's a busy part of the semester so they could get more rest and recovery, or maybe we would do like a scavenger hunt, to focus more on team bonding. It felt like we had a little bit more flexibility. I feel like it really helped us in the long run. And so there's a lot of really cool things to be proud of. And it's really hard to put all of the little moments from the season to words. And, Seamus, thank you for highlighting, the NCAA, the big takeaways from there. And, I think we're really proud of the women's team for placing 5th, and for the men's team for placing 12th and having a really awesome meet. And so I think like the big takeaway from the year is that it's taken us a while to figure out exactly how to put it into words. And I take that as a good thing. Most recently in Greensboro, the things that stand out are really like the moments where, we would be standing on the side of the pool, like on the barriers, right? And so the coaches and a lot of the swimmers would be there, and a lot of the divers. And then I would just like look back every now and again to get a glimpse of the team. And anytime somebody was on the boards or on the blocks, everybody was up, everybody was loud, everybody was so engaged. And that was just really cool. Like that was just really cool to see the energy, the atmosphere. We had a big team, which I think was really helpful. So there was a lot of support. And even the people back home sent us with posters that they made. And I think they really felt the love from people back in Cambridge. So the meet in general was so much fun. I think we started off on a really high note, a really positive note right away. I think day one for us was it was incredible. I think it was a really amazing start to the meet, probably one of the best starts that we've ever had to NCAAs, opening it up with, lots of good 500 frees. We had our first swim of the meet was by our first year, Camila Pierce. And that's a tough race to be in, right? When your first swim of your NCAA career is the 500 free. And I think she got us into the meet and did a really good job. And then that followed with some really great 200 IMs, and then the 50 free, and then the 200 medley relay. In the morning, both relays went really well. And I think we were like, okay, like this is good. We're rolling. And then at night, it was just incredible. And it was so much fun, and things started off really well with Kate and her 200 IM, and then with Tobe and with Ella in the 50 free. And, like Tobe winning that 50 free, I'll never forget. This is my interpretation, at least, of the moment of like in the race when he went and he touched the wall. I swear that scoreboard went blank for it felt like 10, 20 seconds, and it was probably less than a second. But, in that moment, you don't know, right, who wins a 50 free. And then when he won, everybody went nuts. And it was so cool. It was so cool to see the whole team just lose it and be so excited for Tobe. And then Ella, her first big individual final too, right? We had so many first years on our NCAA team, so many first-time qualifiers, and anytime they were, in their first big moments, it was really special, and she did really well. And then the medley relays, that was the men's team did really well. It was an awesome race. And then the women's team, followed that up, and it was the first time a women's relay had won a national title for MIT. And so that was just a moment I'll never forget. Us coaches were standing next to each other, and it was like, okay, like this is going well. This is going really well. And it was like so many emotions, and, you could feel the energy from the team. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then once Ella dove in for the freestyle and hit the turn, we're like, okay, like you never know until it's over. It's a 200 medley relay. But then when they won, it was like, okay, here we go. Like, this is really cool. And then the momentum carried, right? Like, it's a long meet. It's something that's hard to replicate throughout the year. Our NEWMAC championships is 7 sessions long. even adding one more session with 8 at NCAAs is something that takes experience. It takes practice. And like I said, we had a lot of first years on the team. And so I think, like as the meet got going, like people got into it and we had lots of really amazing swims. And I guess I don't have to break down every swim, every dive. We had 3 amazing divers at the meet. And they did great. They had to watch the first day because all of them started on the second day. And again, I think having a big team was really helpful. Lots of people there behind everybody. So all in all, I think the takeaway from NCAAs is that it was just so much fun. And I think that is something that we really strive to do because, life at MIT can be pretty stressful. And we all know, right, in the swimming and diving world, how big of a commitment this is. And so like what I want is when we get to the end of the year at, any sort of championship meet, right? We have, the BU Winter Open, we have the NEWMAC championships, we have NCAAs. It has to be fun, and I think we really accomplished that. At NCAAs is like the most recent one. And I could go on, clearly. I can just ramble about how fun it was and like how many highlights we had and, seeing all of the fun moments and something that really stands out of like something that was really fun for the person in the water and for the people behind the stands was Kate, right? When she let off that 4 medley relay the next night after the 2 medley relay. And, she touched the wall and I surprised herself, like knew she could swim fast, but never knew that, in that moment she was going to break an NCAA record for the first time. And like everybody was so excited. So I think like everybody, anytime somebody did something good, it just, bled into the rest of the team. And it was it was great. So I'll stop there.
No, that's good. I like you touching on a lot of moments because that means that like, like you're saying, it's memorable. And I remember watching a live stream at some point and I could see the MIT section where you guys were situated on that side of the pool. And it just seemed like, you guys were jumping up and down, cheering. And I could see just like how infectious that energy was just from the spectator point of view on a television screen. So I can't imagine what it was like on the pool deck. But from the sounds of it, it sounds like everyone was just up and cheering and excited for one another. So, what do you attribute that to in the sense where, you look back as a coach and you see, oh my God, my team is just going crazy. They're so excited for each other. And do you think that, is coming from you as coaches saying, hey, like, we need to be up, let's get off our phones. We need to be up and cheering, like, or is that just coming from leadership within the team? Is that coming from just a buy-in from the team being like, hey, we're committed to something greater than ourselves here?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, but I really do have to give the leadership of our team a ton of credit. I think they really worked hard at focusing on the team camaraderie and the team culture and the team atmosphere and making sure that people were engaged, right? I think that's when it's fun, right? You want to be seeing what your teammates are doing. And so I think we started talking about that even at the dual meet level really early on. And then, trying to keep that energy alive and being really excited on deck. And then I think once championship season hit, I think the cool thing about the way our schedule is laid out, right, is we start our championship season with the BU Winter Open, right? And it's an amazing meet. It's kind of the meet where, people who don't make the conference team will go and have their final meet of the year. And it's, I said it, it's awesome. It's right across the river for us. So it's really accessible for the whole team to go. BU was like a 5-minute drive down the road. And so, we've been going for the past this is my 5th year. So we've gone every year that I've been here. And I think it really makes a difference because that's the meet where, for a lot of people, their season was ending, but our whole team was in the stands and everybody's up, everybody's so loud, they're so excited. And it really sets an amazing tone. So I think by starting championship season really strong and having the focus on the team and the atmosphere and the energy, I think it then, continues into the other meets that we have. And then this year we hosted NEWMAC at home, which is also really fun because, I think lots of friends and family are in the stands and the energy is really good and it's really familiar. And it's a place that we've been, all season long. So I think NEWMAC at home is always really, really special. And then I think there was no question by the time we got to NCAAs of what the goal was, right? Of when someone's in that water, when someone with an MIT cap is going, going up to the blocks or going onto the boards, you're locked in, right? Because it's going to make them better. And then in turn, it's going to make you better later on. It's something that we talked about a little bit as coaches, but again, I think the leaders, our captains, our seniors were awesome role models this year. So they get a lot of that credit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And so for someone like Tobe, is Tobe a senior this year?
He is a senior.
So, okay. So talk to me a little bit about that in the sense where for Tobe, he's able to kind of capitalize on this career as a swimmer for MIT, with a national, coming away as a national champion in the 50 free, which is, a crapshoot of a race that is, just like it's the most detail oriented race, besides the other 50s of strokes, I guess, in terms of the relays. But yeah, what does that mean to you as a coach, just to be with him through sort of the 4 years and to see it come together for him? And what does that look like to get from, where he started to then become a national champion? Because I imagine that is just a huge level of commitment, work, sacrifice. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. This, I'll first, talk about Tobe's class because all graduating seniors right now came in the fall of 2020, right? So they all, at the Division III level, came into a season that didn't exist, right? They came into this very strange time where every school was doing something different. And, the Division III season was canceled. So we had to make something out of nothing. Right. And so, Tobe and his classmates started their career virtually. Right. This was their getting to know MIT and MIT Swim and Dive. And, we tried really hard to make the experience as best as it could be. And we had just seniors on campus in the fall, and then everybody else would be coming to campus in the spring. And so lots of Zoom engagement, and we were as creative as we possibly could be. But it's been such an interesting journey to see this class start like this, start by getting to know each other over the computer and, starting this huge new chapter of their lives virtually, and then just seeing them grow into these amazing young adults who have done so much good for this program and for MIT. And I think all across the board, every graduating senior this year has, really done a fantastic job. I think we always talk about leaving the program better than they found it. And I think every single person graduating this year, I hope they can walk away knowing that they did just that. I think they were very committed as a class. They were very into it. They were really bought in, right? Like you mentioned earlier, like the buy-in is important, and they were really bought in. And I think that's why Tobe was successful, from start to finish. His first year, like we just talked about, didn't really exist. I think we had this, I think we called it a spring race series that spring. And again, it was socially distanced racing. Looking back, it was interesting. It was fine. We did the best we could, but then, he came back as a sophomore, and that it was like they were sophomores, but they were really first years. They were learning how to be students at MIT, and then also trying to navigate actually being sophomores. And so, he had a really successful sophomore year and swam really fast. And, they won relays that year at NCAAs, and like he won the 100 free and things were really good. And then I think in that moment he realized, like, I think he always knew how good he could be, how good he was and how good he could be. And I think like the longer he was here, the more locked in he was, the more bought in he was, the more of a team player he was. And I think that just really impacted in a really positive way the other people on the team. And then, last year he had another great year. And then, he got sick on the last day of NCAAs and couldn't swim the 100 free or the 400 free relay, which was, really upsetting at the time. But like things you can't control, and you gotta kind of move on and figure out the next step. And he handled it really well. You cannot, you never know when you're going to get sick. You never know when things will happen. I think we all know that really well now, right? Based on COVID, but I think he handled it well. And then this year he just locked in, is the only phrase that's coming to my mind. But I guess like that just describes Tobe. He was, he knew what he needed to do. He, always brought everything he had to every practice. He held his teammates accountable. The people around him wanted to be better because he was doing the best that he could. And yeah, he just went all in, and it was so much fun to see. And then, like I think really, I've already said it, but he really helped set the tone for a really fun and amazing NCAAs.
Yeah, it's amazing. Another person that, comes to mind just in terms of, obviously, like you've mentioned, there's so many swimmers to highlight across the board, but I guess I'm looking at some of the, national champions too, really just as far as kind of what you see as their coach in terms of how they're able to sort of, rise through the cream of the crop and actually be the national champion. I mean, that's a huge deal. So for someone like Kate, you said, she finished that first 100 back lead off and she was like shocked at the time. And I feel like when you said that, I think of like, that's like the best feeling as a swimmer is when you just surprise yourself and you look up at the clock and you're like, wait, I did that? Like that, how did that, where did that come from? So, and that's what it sounds like from her. So, what did you notice within Kate this year as just a shift for her to be able to, walk away with 2 national titles and, be a part of a national winning relay and a part of these great relays and a great team with the women. So I guess, what was that shift that you saw with her?
Kate, I think, has really just found this inner confidence, this really incredible ability to trust herself. I think, last year at this time, right, we're doing end of season meetings to talk through the season and, things that went well and could be better. And, also, for those people that are returning, shifting the focus to, okay, like how can we take this and be better for next year? And at this time last year, she had a great NCAAs last year, no doubt. And, got third in the 100 back, which was amazing. And then second in the 2 back by a really small margin. And, in that moment, I think that's when she really realized like, I could win, like I could be a national champion myself. And, and I think that's like when it really settled in of like, okay, I can do this. Like there's things that she worked on all year long, her turns, her tempo, her pacing, a lot of things. And she was really dialed in during practice and there's, Kate always gives everything she has in practice, but I think she was just really confident, so
confident. Mm-hmm.
Confident. Yeah. And I think, we had a conversation at the meet too about experience and how it really helps at NCAAs, right? The more years that you're at that meet, the more you know what to expect, right? The 8 sessions doesn't feel quite so long. The week away from school feels a little different because you've done it before. Being in a hotel away from everything you're used to, it feels like it just is part of the routine. You've done it before. And so, and then also like knowing that you belong there, right? That you are among the best. And Yeah, I knew Kate was going to swim fast this year. There was no doubt. She did everything she could in the pool, and outside of the pool to be her best. And then she was locked in. I'm going to keep saying that for Kate and Tobe, because I think their performances really highlight how much they believed in themselves and their teammates and the process. And I think Kate just really found that confidence, and there was no looking back, in that 100 backstroke, in that last 25, or in that last 50 over 200 back. That was it. She knew she could do it, and there was no question.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, like you said, just as far as experience, like you can't teach experience. So for swimmers like Tobe, like Kate, and yeah, not to disregard her previous, performances at NCAAs, because if you look across, she was like top 3 finisher and second by like just a hair last year. So she's always been at the top since she's been there, but to be able to have the breakthrough and, like you said, kind of recognize like, hey, I can. I belong here, and I can be that person who is a champion is like amazing. So that's really cool. I was able to talk to her. I interviewed her last week, but I was just curious to get into a little bit of her mindset. And she kind of mentioned the same thing. She said, yeah, experience was a huge factor, but also just like, dialing in, race specific strategies and practices, whether that was my kick counts or, sharpening up my turns, and just like, really enjoying the practices where she could get into race gear, whether that was suiting up or just, having some fast type of, racing in practice. That was like, she said she gained confidence from that. And that gave her the tools to really, have that breakthrough. So excited to share that with people. I think those are great takeaways for athletes and for swimmers. So very cool. Well, good. So we'll move on here a little bit. I want you to kind of give, a background for our listeners on just, your experience in the sport of swimming, kind of where it all began for you. And then eventually, how that fed into you wanting to become a coach, and maybe additionally, who are some of those mentors for you that really gave you that inspiration to want to pursue coaching?
Yeah. Swimming is like a huge part of me. It's in my blood. It's a big part of my childhood. My mom was a lifeguard and a swim coach, and we were around the pool all the time growing up. So I feel like most every memory that I have from my even early childhood was at the pool. And so it's always been a really special place. And then it was always something that I put a lot of myself into. I always really loved to go to club meets and hang out with my swim friends. And that it was always a really big part of my life. And then I went to Springfield College, and it continued, right? Like swimming was a big part of my experience at Springfield. My best friends then and to this day are still, we're at Springfield. And, I just loved the experience there. And I'll never forget, there was one day my senior year, my coach, John Tafe, I climbed out of we were finished practice. I climbed out of the pool, and he knew I was staying at Springfield for 5 years. So I was on this kind of fast track to a master's. It was 4+1, and I was getting my master's of social work in 5 years. So I would be still in school at Springfield the next year. And he said, I'll never forget, I have no idea what day it was, but it with the place on deck where he was like, "Hey, Meg, have you ever thought about coaching?" And my response was, yeah, of course, rec or club or something, staying in the sport was always something that I thought I would do post collegiate career. And then he was like, "Oh, good. I think you should consider it. I think you'd be good at it." And then he kind of just briefly mentioned that eventually there would be a graduate assistant position open, because Springfield, their assistant coach model at the time, was 2 graduate assistants. And so they would, turn over every couple of years. And so he was like, "You should consider it, if it's something that you might be interested in." And it then that turned into this whole thing of trying to like rework my master's to figure out how I could make it work with being a GA in the athletics department, because the social work school at Springfield was pretty separate than like a lot of the other graduate schools. And so there wouldn't be a GA position open for swimming and diving until the following year. So I would have to take, I guess, kind of like a gap year where I would maybe just do an internship and really do not a lot of class for social work, and then finish the degree for 2 years after that to kind of stretch it out. So there's a lot of details there, and I won't get in like too far into the weeds, but I worked really closely with my the faculty at the social work school to really make this work, because one, it was a way to stay in swimming and to learn something new. And I love the team and so much that I was like, I want to make this work. So it took months of planning and getting like everybody on board in terms of the registrar and then, the athletic department and all of that. So anyways, we got it to work. And I'm so glad that we spent those months trying to figure it out, because I had no idea at the time, but it changed the whole trajectory of my life. Because, the next year after I graduated, I volunteered, which was definitely the right thing, right? Where I was, there sometimes and learning a little bit behind the scenes, but still I was coaching a rec team in a nearby town. And then the following year I started, back in full-time school and being the GA. And so I did that for the next 2 years. And, I love my MSW. I think it has provided so many foundational skills for coaching. I think a lot of what I learned in social work is so applicable. And, as coaches, we wear many hats and we have many things that we do. And so I feel like while I was coaching, I was learning a lot of, the administration, the technical, that part of the coaching side. And then in the classroom and my, other internships that I did, I was learning the human side, right? Because that's important too. So when it came time for the end of those 2 years, kind of there was two roads, right? Like the safe route would be go into social work and, probably continue to stay in Western Mass. And I would be perfectly happy because I really loved clinical social work, but something didn't feel quite right about that, because I really loved coaching. And, John was really kind of pushing me that way. And I'm really thankful for John Tafe and everything he has done for me as a swimmer and as a coach. But he was like, you should try it. Right. And so I was like, okay, I'll see what's out there. And luckily was connected with JP Gowdy at Pomona Pitzer Colleges. And I'll never forget then the first time John was like, oh yeah, JP's looking for an assistant in California. And I was like, absolutely not. There's no way. Like, I'm not moving to California. I've never been there. I don't know a single person in California. No, thank you. And so I looked at some other places, and then ultimately, and then I talked to JP, and he convinced me to come out and check it out. And again, like another one of those things that, when you're in your early to mid 20s, you don't realize that sometimes those decisions that you make can really change your life. And so I'm so glad that I did. And it felt right. It felt like the right next step, and something, at the very least, if coaching didn't work out, would be an amazing experience, but I was really motivated to continue coaching. And that's kind of how I got into it. I, graduated with my master's and decided coaching was the route for me. And it's almost 10 years later. Here we are. Wow.
Yeah. Never look back.
No.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's so cool though, the way that works. Like you come to a crossroads, and I've experienced this too. It's like, okay, you're looking at it and you're like, this could be more of a safe route for me. It makes sense. It lines up with sort of my education background, but then here's an avenue where it's like, this is kind of exciting to me because it's a little bit of an unknown, but I'm really passionate about swimming and coaching. So I think that's so cool. Yeah. And so let's transition to Pomona then. So you get to Pomona and Pitzer, you're connected with JP Gowdy. And so what was that experience like for you as far as just, being thrown into the fire of being like, okay, here's your first, real full-time assistant role. And you're going to be, dealing with all these, X's and O's. I don't know what else to say, but as far as just that and sort of the learning experiences that you gathered from Pomona, or even like, pivotal moments for you. aha moments, whatever, however you want to describe them, that you can kind of like reflect on and realize, oh yeah, these are pretty crucial moments.
Yeah. Oh, that's tough. Because I feel like I was there for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. August, oh gosh, 2015 to 19 when I came to MIT. And I feel like everything was a pivotal moment. Because
continuous.
yeah, I feel like I grew a lot as a coach, as a person, and I'm so thankful for JP for providing the experience. Like, he gave me a ton of responsibility right away and was like, "You do this, and it'll be okay. And if it's not great, it'll be better next time." And just really trusted me to figure it out and learn and make mistakes in the role, and work really closely with the team. I think like at first it was really scary and it was so new and uncomfortable at times. But I think now looking back, again, it's one of the best decisions I ever made, because it again changed the course of my life. It led me to MIT and to this amazing team and opportunity. And I'm so thankful for that. I think, it helped, when you move to a beautiful place and it's nice weather all the time, and there's mountains or beach or sun anywhere. It's so moving to Southern California was just a really cool life adventure in itself, and something that is really meaningful to me and my family. And but yeah, I think like the pivotal moments came from pretty much the day-to-day moments with the team. The offices at Pomona Pitzer, I shared an office with JP. And so I feel like, we talked about the team and about coaching and about life a lot. And I feel like that was really helpful. And, because, during my time at Pomona Pitzer, like, so much happens in your life. And so it was really, really great to have a mentor and a friend like JP. And so, but the offices are right when you walk into the pool. And so there's like glass windows that surround half the office. And so, the team would come in and just hang out and sit in the office and chat. And, it's a beautiful day out. And so I feel like even moments like that, or, walking to the downtown area in Claremont with people on the team or people in the department and getting to know them, I feel like those just really helped me formulate like my coaching style and philosophy, and really wanting to be a coach that's there for the swimmers and divers and really understands their experience. I lived pretty close to campus, which was really helpful for a lot of reasons. A short commute is really helpful. But I think like living in Claremont really allowed me to understand the Claremont colleges and the Pomona Pitzer experiences. And I think, like now I live really close to MIT and I really understand the MIT experience, because I think it just helps me be a better coach. I think I understand, the expectations, what they're going through, and I can, just try to help them. But anyways, yeah, I think it's really hard to label pivotal moments, because, I can think about so many different times during those 4 years, where I feel like JP gave me an incredible amount of trust. My second year in the fall semester, JP was on parental leave for the fall semester. So I was the interim head coach, and I was really young and, was sometimes felt like I didn't know what I was doing. And I think, looking back on it, it was such a good learning moment, because you just had to make things happen because they needed to. And I think that was a really great experience into being like what it felt like to be a head coach, but it wasn't my own program yet. But I think something that I always really appreciated about the experience at PPSD was that like it felt like I was a really active part in building that team and the culture, and the camaraderie. And so, I took a lot of what I learned there and brought it to MIT. So yeah, too many things. So many.
No, it's good.
But the experience in itself is something that like totally changed the course of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. And to have, full sort of responsibility your second year as the interim head coach, that really puts you right in there. But to me, like, what I like about coaching though is that, you know, I even experienced it as an assistant coach at Wesleyan in my first kind of collegiate coaching role. And I was, you know, a graduate assistant, but really the only other full-time assistant alongside my mentor, Peter Solomon. And it was like, there is a massive level of responsibility that you have on your shoulders as a coach, as an assistant, as a head coach, particularly a head coach. And so it's like, it can be overwhelming to think about, I feel like, in the moment, because you have maybe a bit of an imposter syndrome where you're like, oh my God, I'm so young. How am I, you know, in charge of a program like this? But at the same time, like you said, you just kind of have to make it happen. And because, you know, like, I have to keep this ball rolling. I can't just, you know, fold here. Like I gotta keep it going. So I think that's just like, yeah, really cool, very admirable. And it just seems like that's the type of position that you would want, is something where, you know, your head coach gives you autonomy to just, you know, have your own just style and responsibilities, where you can start to form your own, you know, your own coaching approach. And so that's what it seems like Pomona gave you, which is really cool. And any moments from Pomona as far as like dual meets or just like swim, you know, swimming, diving moments at NCAAs, or certain things that like stick out as like, oh my God, these were just jaw-dropping moments, or just huge performances within those 4 years? I'm sure it's hard to pinpoint, but like any that kind of come to mind.
Oh yeah, I think something that's really unique about the Claremont colleges is their proximity to one another, right? So Pomona Pitzer has his own athletic department, and then Claremont, McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Scripps has their own. So the CMS PPSD rivalry is unlike anything I've ever seen, because it's, you know, you could, when we would compete against CMS, if it was at CMS's pool, we would walk less than 5 minutes down the road.
That's right there. Right?
It's literally right there. And that was something like at first that I like really had to wrap my head around, you know, even though schools here in New England are close together, we're not walking anywhere. We couldn't even walk. I mean, I guess we could walk to Harvard, but it's like obviously very different. So that was something that was really cool. There was always lots of build up to the dual meets against CMS. And then the conference championships, also lots of build up, because it was always very close, right? It was going back and forth between, you know, who was the favorite, who was going to come out on top. And I think my first year we won on the women's side. And that was so exciting. That was something, you know, what a whirlwind year. And that was so much fun to end it on such a high note. And then we went on to win multiple other championships in my time there. And then the men's team had won. And the year that the men and the women won at this in the same year, that was really cool, right? Like the post conference win celebration is something that I would imagine like they'll never forget, right? Like it's something that it's like a pivotal moment, in that it's like you just get to jump in the pool with all of your friends and this trophy. And it was just so much fun. So I think that the SCIAC championships were always a highlight every single year, all 4 years. And then the CMS PPSD dual meets, because it's, you know, it's just, like I said, unlike anything else. You know, your friends have no excuse why they can't come cheer you on at a swim meet that is, you know, it's either like at home or it's really close to campus. So I think that dynamic it made for a lot of fun moments in those 4 years.
Yeah. And so just real quick, as far as getting some background on like these schools in Southern California, like CMS, Pomona Pitzer. I was going to say PPSD, but that's a swim and dive program. So like, what are these schools like? Are they comparable to MIT? Kind of what, you know, what kind of students are typically, you know, coming to these schools or attracted to these schools?
Yeah. So I think, this is jogging it back to, you know, the recruiting pitch from all those years ago. I think
I was about to say we're doing a recruiting pitch back in time right now.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, the Claremont colleges are really interesting because it seemed as if, and I'm sure it's still like something for everybody, you know, all very very good schools, and you know the rigor is quite high, but you know you can take classes at any of the schools, so that was certainly a benefit. Harvey Mudd at Claremont, at the Claremont colleges, is similar to MIT. I don't know much about Harvey Mudd, honestly. Pomona and Pitzer colleges were both liberal arts colleges, which is like the level of rigor, is quite similar to MIT, but obviously MIT is a STEM school, so there's lots of differences. But I think ultimately there were a lot of parallels. When I came to MIT from Pomona Pitzer, like I felt very prepared to understand the student athlete experience, right? Because again, I think that's really critical in being a good coach, and like really understanding their experience is understanding what they're going through. For like the reason why they're here is to go to school, right? So I felt as if there were a lot of similarities when I came from MIT, or when I came to MIT.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's good. It's just, I was curious if the more liberal arts colleges or STEM. So that was kind of clarifying. So that's nice. And then, so talk to me about, I'm curious, just your transition now. You accept the MIT position, and you're coming now summer of 2019, and you don't know it, but you're going to walk into, a COVID ending sort of year. And so just talk to me about the transition from, being in an assistant role for the past 4 or 5 years, right? Combined with Springfield, and then also now transitioning to being a head coach. Like, now you're at the helm of a really, historically successful Division III team at MIT, and just, what was that like? And then also just transitioning to like, okay, dealing with COVID and all of that. Hoopla. I think the transition, year one in any new job is challenging in its own way. Of course, like nobody knew what was going to happen with COVID, but I think, I got this job in August, so it was a quick transition, to pick up your life and move across the country, and then get here and start season 3 weeks later. And of course, I think it's okay to admit that it was a little intimidating coming to MIT, a program with such a history of success, and they've done so many amazing things. But I think I just really tried to get to know the swimmers and divers right away. Spent a lot of time meeting with people, a lot of time getting to know MIT. And I think, the transition was awesome and hard, and so many things all wrapped up into one. And James Sika, our former associate head coach, was here, and so helped kind of bridge the gap, and I think helped in the transition a lot, and really helped me understand MIT and the way things had done before, and that sort of thing. And so I think in year one it was just like head down and grind, right? Where like you just work all the time, and you just you're trying to get to, it was my first head coaching role, right? So just trying to make sure that people were buying into what we were doing, and people were having fun. And, I think it seemed as if it was over as super quickly, because the season went by so fast and so many things happened. And then, like moments you don't forget as a coach is when, the administration says that we're not going to NCAAs because of this, coronavirus or whatever they were calling it at the time. And like, nobody understood what was going on. And, MIT made the decision to, we were not going to the championships the Wednesday before NCAAs. And that was really hard because the championships at that moment were not canceled yet, but MIT was like, no, we're not going. And so, that 24-hour period to tell the team of like, this is what's going on. This, the season is abruptly coming to an end. And we had a lot of seniors on the team that year. I think it was hard. It was really hard. There was nothing we could do about it because no one in our lifetime had experienced something like this. So, we did the best we could. And then, then just like less than 24 hours later, everything was canceled, right? Everybody was going home, everything, it was this mad dash, right? To get off campus and to get wherever you were going. We tried to squeeze in like a team banquet and like all these things that it was just like,
the restrictions kept getting like more and more and more. So we just ended up being like, okay, we'll see you on Zoom. Get home, get safe. You know, we'll be fine. And so then we transitioned to meeting over Zoom, and I think we just did the best we could, right, to keep people connected and I think, you know, lots of Zoom calls, lots of phone calls, lots of checking in. And, you know, I look back on that and I feel like, I mean, that's how we got to know our incoming first year class, which is now our graduating senior class. That's how we got to know, I feel like I got to know some people maybe even a little bit more, right? Because, you know, life slowed down a little bit. But yeah, I think that the transition into MIT was just like fast and furious. It was like head spinning, so many things happening all at once. But like you know, fell in love with MIT really quickly. And, you know, I love the people and it's an awesome place to work. And yeah, so I think, I'm sorry, your original question was about the transition. So
it's good. No, this is good.
Back to 2020.
I have another question too. I mean, no, that's good. I can't imagine, just having to, you know, go through your first year, have it fly by just with how it's just like overwhelming, just trying to get, you know, your footing into a new job. And although it can be enjoyable, it's also like, you know, you gotta just continue to put your head down and just continue to work and learn, and figure your own footing out as a head coach. So it seems like to me, from what I'm hearing from you, you know, just connecting with your athletes, connecting with the people that, you know, are on your staff and at MIT and that are connected to your program is really important to you. And so, like, is that something that, you know, is a cultural piece for you that sort of is at its core of your coaching? Like, you know, you obviously you want to be able to give these athletes the best workout plans and certain, you know, specific race strategies to be able to have them to perform well. But, you know, at its core, you want to just get to know these athletes. You want to build relationships and you want them to leave the program better than they came to it. Right. So is that accurate? Is that something that you kind of pride yourself on as far as, you know, being a head coach?
I think so. I hope so. I you know, I think you might have to pull the team for that, but I think we try, right? We try really hard. Like something, you know, that it took a little getting used to was the time, you know, constraints that we have at MIT, right? Life is really busy. And so, you know, we have from 5 to 7 most every afternoon. And you know, sometimes it's worth it to take an extra 5 minutes and do a buddy kick and be like, just talk to each other about your day, right? Or maybe it's worth it to, like I said early on in the podcast, like we decided, I think this was because there was a club meet or a water polo game, so we maybe couldn't get in the pool, but it was like, it's okay. Like, we don't need to swim or dive. Like, let's do a scavenger hunt and have them run around campus and talk to each other. Like, it'll be just fine. So I think we try, you know, it's certainly not perfect, but I think, you know, at the end of the year, when you see people at, you know, any championship meet having fun, I think that comes from like them being connected.
And as far as, you know, you touched on it, but having a 2-hour block, right? It's super limited. I mean, that is a unique kind of piece to MIT. A school like MIT is, because it is so academically rigorous and the students are so involved with their studies and extracurriculars, and just student life in general. They only have, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like you guys have a, you know, 2-hour time slot, like you just said, from 5 to 7. And I remember talking to you over the summer, and it really did seem like, you know, you have to be super intentional with that time, because there is not a lot of hanging out in the office after 7. I mean, those kids are out the door, you know, back to the grindstone, just working. So yeah, like I'm curious. I had this question in my head of just like, you know, for, you know, you being in a head coach role at a school like MIT, just like what are, maybe in addition to this, like what are some of the unique challenges of just, you know, working through that at an institution like MIT that you just might not see, you know, elsewhere. And just like, I guess as a coach, how do you find ways to like continue to have the athletes flourish in that space, but at the same time, like know that their studies are that number one priority? If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. I think we have to be like, we want them to be mindful of our time, and we have to be really mindful of their time. I think oftentimes this is a break for them. They're busy all day long in lab or class or doing their PSETs, or, internships, depending on the person. But I think ultimately, when we're here, we're really dialed in, right? Like, we're really thoughtful about our process, our plan. We share it with them, ahead of time, so they can have an idea of what to expect for the week and days ahead. But yeah, I think the challenge that I love about MIT is that and I think this is, I learned this, in the earlier places that I've been in my coaching careers. You have to be really mindful. You have to have a really good reason why you do what you do, right? Because like our swimmers and divers want to know why, right? They want to know why we're doing a breath control set. They want to know why we're doing this kick set at this time on this day. They want to know those kinds of things. And I think it's really important that, like, if we only have 2 hours, right? And there is a concept that is MIT time, where everything starts 5 minutes after the hour. I don't know, campus is, like, I guess, kind of stretched out. I don't know. And so it's the way it works. But if we start at 5:05, right, that means we have an hour and 55 minutes. And then maybe we have to talk about the dual meet on the weekend, or maybe we have to talk about like some other sort of team administrative thing. So maybe that's 10 minutes. And then, when you have a big team, you have to get everybody to where they need to be, and you have to explain the set. And so, there's like a lot of thought that goes into almost every single minute of practice. And then also, like, on the human side of it, the thing that, like, it's like always in the back of my ear is like, okay, is this like fun, right? Like, it's not as if we're doing, relays and buddy kick every single day, but it's like,
Right.
Ultimately, like, how can we, like, what are we going to tell them in the lead up to the main set that's going to make it like we're going to try to draw out the best in them. So I think, like, the unique challenge about MIT is the time. Yeah. Cause you mentioned it, like, they're not, like, we do have a big group of people that will stay after, a couple times a week, and we'll, work on some specific skills, or, maybe do a little bit of video if that's something they're interested in. But I think ultimately, we have classes that start at 7:05. We have exams that happen sometimes in the evenings, or they're in, like, so many different groups on campus. So they're busy, they're out the door. And so, it's not like we're not running practice until 7:05. Like, warm down doesn't start at 7:02. It's like we have to be really intentional with everything that we do. And I think it's a good challenge, honestly. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that did not work. That didn't, we spent too much time talking about this, or this set, was good in theory, but in practice was not that great. And so, we're always trying to tweak things to make it better.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. And you mentioned the word fun. Like, I'm curious, like, what does fun mean to you, as far as, just trying to find that balance between doing the work, but then also keeping it light and having fun? Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. I guess I've never thought about the definition of fun. It's funny. We have, like, on my wall right here, our group that went to the BU Winter Open created this team goal sheet, and I have it on the wall. And it's just a nice reminder, because some of the things they wrote down, like, literally one of them is have fun with multiple exclamation marks.
So nice.
And so I think that I think it's something different for everybody, right? I think, like, I think there's fun in knowing that you got a really good workout in, like, and that it meant something, right? Like, okay, I know my 200 is going to be better because of the set. Like, with Kate, she was, like, super intentional, and, like, maybe like, it wasn't fun in terms of, like, having the best time ever, but, like, she, like, maybe had a lot of fun with those race pace sets where she was like, I know I'm going to be able to nail the last 15 of my 200 backstroke because of the work I did today. Or maybe it's like, you just, like, haven't seen your friends all day because you're not in the same classes, and then you get in the lane with them and you're like, oh, this is nice. I'm not going to talk about anything academically related, or maybe we will, but we'll have fun doing that, just being with each other. So I think it can come from a lot of different things, and it means something different to everybody.
Yeah, I like that. Like, sort of a dynamic definition, different for different people. That's cool. All right, is there something that you do within training that you feel is a game changer for your athletes, or just something that you and your assistant coach just really like doing, or have even seen like, okay, as we've implemented it this year, it's really something that we feel strongly about?
Yeah. Good question. We did a lot of breath control this year. I felt like, sometimes when we're pressed for time, we have to be really creative with, like, we're not volume based. We don't really count yards, because there's a lot of other things that we can measure in practice. And I think like breath control is not a crowd favorite, but they like the work that it provides. They like to be like, oh, I'm out of breath out of that set, but wow, that was hard. And then I know that I'm not going to have to breathe every single stroke on the last 25 of my 100 free, or so, I don't know. Like no one said that exactly, but I think some people have thought it.
Is it so with breath control? Is it a mixture of breathing counts on strokes like freestyle, and or also like underwater work where you're working pushing to 15 meter or 15 yards underwaters, or having a kick count where you're also having to engage that breath control?
Both. Yeah.
Okay.
We do a lot of underwater kick, regardless of the strength of the underwater kicker. We try to really focus on that. I think a large majority of our team is quite good underwater, and some are not as strong, but I think we still ask everybody to do it. And then we do a lot of like breath counts, like 75s where you breathe every 3, every 2, every 1 by 25, or Tobe this morning did a set that was, breath restriction, right? Like you can't breathe until you get to a certain point. Things like that. So try to mix it up a little bit, especially because, we had a lot of people who would train in our sprint group. And so regardless of the sprint specialty, there's not a lot of breath. There's a lot of breath control that goes into a good 100 or 50. So I think that is something that we focused on a lot.
Yeah. No, I like that. I definitely implement a lot of breath control with, the age group swimmers that I work with now. And yeah, although there's pushback from, 9, 10, 11-year-olds on doing a breath count of something like 3, 2, 1 on the 75, I'm like, they have gotten so good at it this year because I have just like, from September through April. And it's like that consistency, they've gotten so good to the point where I have, some 11-year-olds just doing no breath 50s. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. They're going to be good. So I think it's cool. I think because as a swimmer, when I was doing breath control work, especially like my coach was huge on doing a descending breath count, in the sense where, he might start off at, it would be like a set of 10 50s. And it could be like, okay, you're going to start off at something easy, like 4-4, but then we're going all the way down to a no breath 50. And he'd hold like, a minute or a 110 interval. But it really did, like, it seems easy on the surface maybe, but then you're like, okay, wait, no, I really have to dial in my breathing pattern, and like also just, at the wall, trying not to talk so much maybe, and just control that. I think it really just engages your mind too, like where you're just not, it's not passive swimming. It's like, okay, I'm thinking while I'm swimming. So cool.
Yeah, I think there's a lot, like at the end of a hard race, it doesn't really even matter the distance. This isn't just sprint specific, but at the end of a race, there's a lot of, in my mind, a lot of trust a swimmer has to have within themselves, right? Where they keep their technique, they don't shorten up, they don't, all of a sudden change their breath pattern. They don't just get to the walls. Like, obviously you want to get to the wall as fast as you can, but like at the end of 100 fly, for example, you want to know that you can get to that wall, right? And not sacrifice your body position or the length of your stroke or anything like that. So I think like it also, while it is like beneficial to do breath control by itself, right? I think it also allows people to be like, I know I can do that. I know I can do hard things. Like I know I can, we really try to have them focus on the quality of the stroke, not just like spinning their arms as fast as they can to get through a 25. That's one breath. So
yeah,
I think there's a lot of ways
but I like it.
Work with it. Yeah.
Totally. But yeah, you're right. Like ultimately building that confidence to know that you can keep it together, hold strong down the line, and just out touch that person next to you. It's super important.
Yeah.
Cool. Final question for you. Yeah. Are you a fan as a coach / swimmer of get out swims? And if so, do you have any favorite get out swims, memorable get out swims to share?
Yes. Who doesn't love a get out swim? We have done, and I think we did it this past year. My mind is a little foggy, I guess, depending on the year. But we did a mixed medley where we we did and it was a 400 medley, mixed medley, picked 2 men, 2 women, assigned them the strokes, and then added up their like what we thought they would go in practice and said they had to be a certain time. And they just always blow it out of the water. Like I was like, either our math is way off or they just really want to get out of here. But it's always fun because I think traditionally we or at least this past year we did it during our big training in January. And like people, like the whole team just like gets up. I think it's great practice for like the team that we want to be on deck at meets. But yeah, the team tends to really love get out swims.
That's awesome. And I am forgetting, we have one final segment that I'm adding to the podcast, which is going to be these quick hit questions. So if you're willing, I have a couple questions for you just to keep it fun, just to keep it light. We'll get away from the swim talk. Okay. So first question, if you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
Oh gosh. Like a superpower that would allow me to freeze time. So like in one part of my life and then go do something else and then come back. I don't know if that's an actual superpower, but something that could like allow you to like manipulate time.
Okay. So it's like almost like a little bit of like teleportation between.
I guess so. Yeah. If like you could teleport somewhere, but then you could come back and then it's like.
Resume. Yeah. Gotcha. I like that. That's cool. Okay. If you could participate in the Olympics for another sport besides swimming, what would it be? Winter or summer?
I like to run. But so I guess like track comes to mind, but like I think I don't know. I guess that's the only. I'm definitely an endurance-based athlete.
So track, but with a more of a focus maybe towards distance.
For sure. Yes, I couldn't swim in the pool, and I certainly can't do it on land either. But
okay, cool. All right. What's a movie or a TV show that you could rewatch over and over again?
We're currently, my husband and I are. We finished all of like the new shows we were watching, so we went back to The Office. We're big Office fans, but also Parks and Rec. I feel like
it's a good one.
Yeah, those are 2 that it's like you could just put it on the background and just repeat. Yeah,
totally.
Easy.
Yeah, like that. Great answers. Last question: a pump up or go-to song, either now or that you can remember from your time as a swimmer and as a competitor, for Springfield, that was just like a go-to for you.
It's funny that you asked this question because like pre-championship season, I had this I have a notebook full of notes that I have for the team, and I wrote this things to think about for championship season. And then I don't know what it was. I just scrapped it. I was like, I'm not going to, this is like the same old same. So then I told them about, when I was a senior in college, it was the first time the NEWMAC combined the championships with men's and women's, and it was at MIT. And we have a nice pool, and it was really exciting to swim your final conference championship at MIT. And so I told them that I'll never forget when I walked into the pool, I was listening to Starships by Nicki Minaj, and then it turned into a joke. They would, we did this thing at NEWMAC this year where the top seed could pick their walkout song. For finals, and the women's 8 free relay on the first night picked Starships by Nicki Minaj.
That's a great song. Yeah, wait, I know how that song is. That's the one with David Guetta, Nicki Minaj, I think, or maybe David Guetta's a DJ. I don't know. Definitely Nicki Minaj. I remember her in that.
Yeah, it's like a big it's
upbeat Starships meant to fly. Yeah, I know the chorus for sure. Okay, I'm not gonna sing it. That's embarrassing, but. That's very cool. That's a good one. Cool. All right. Well, that wraps it up. I think that's a fun. We'll keep that segment. I like that. Meg, thanks so much for talking with me and just taking the time to do this. This has been so fun. I'm super glad you came on and shared your stories and experiences with us. And I hope to keep in touch.
Likewise. Thanks for your time.
Cool. All right.